I want to talk to you a little bit about the reading you had to do for this work folder. Farewell, My Mailbox by Bob Greene. Now, Bob Greene is a longtime columnist, really good writer of these short analytical pieces about something in our culture, in our life, in the news. So you're watching a professional writer at work here. This is not just any article off any site on the net. One thing I want to use this paper for, though, is to demonstrate two things. One, I want to show you how it creates interest, maintains it, rewards it. And I also think it's a great example of an observational piece. Remember, you have a research paper to write for this class. You have three options: the informational, the persuasive approach, and then the observational approach. And this third one is the hardest one to kind of grasp because it usually is not as taught as often as the others. But what you have here is a great example of this. Bob Greene notices something. He notices that in his experience, he's not seeing as many big blue mailboxes, the corner mailboxes. And he goes looking for them in the sense that he does research on this and he tries to figure out what's going on. All right. Now, just a quick aside: the essay itself is dated quite a bit. It's over. It's got over a decade and some since it was written, but it holds up well as a teaching tool. So that's really why I keep on using it. I don't know what the current state of the United States Postal Service is. It's obviously they're still around. I think their prices are incredibly high. Don't try to ship anything through USPS. You'll be surprised at how much it costs now. But, the point is, there was a time when they were in a financial crisis. Bob Greene talks about that. And but the point of his I mean the way he starts this, the way he builds the structure is to really use this notion of this disappearing mailbox as sort of a foundation to build the essay. All right, and so he makes this observation. Then he does investigate. He brings facts and quotes in. Not that quotes are the end all. Please don't misunderstand me there. There's plenty in essay that would have done better without any quotes. But part of the college assignments have that bit of artificialness to them in the sense of, hey, we would like you to show us that you can use quotation marks and that you can cite, you can refer to the speaker in your text and all that stuff. So, but here these quotes really work well. I mean, they're truly part of the fabric of the story he's telling, and but he does something more, doesn't he? He does have this observation that the blue post office, those large corner mailboxes are disappearing. Now, that might be a surprise to some. That might be a way for him to catch the attention of some of his readers. Notice how he starts off with some pretty surprising claims, if you think about it. The title, Farewell, My Mailbox, adios, might get you to, say, what are you talking about? We're not going to have any more mail? And then you realize that the mailbox he's talking about is the big sidewalk mailbox, right? So, and then as he opens up those short one-liners, they sound shocking, but he always phrases them as questions or as possibilities, right? So, the United States Postal Service can never accuse him of saying a mistruth or of exaggerating something, because he doesn't really. If you really look closely at the way he words those things, he's not slipping into hyperbole or some sort of false claim. All right, so he's very careful with that, but he does manage to pull you in with this title and the way he opens it up, and then he wants to present this observation to you, right? But the observation itself isn't enough for this to be a powerful piece. I mean, if the point was just, hey, the boxes are going away, we used to have plenty and now we have few, and then someone might say, well, can you show me the proof of this? Can this go beyond just your sense, or you're feeling that somehow you're running into fewer big blue mailboxes. And so Bob Greene does provide numbers, right? It says, well, here's a big city. Now, notice how well he does that. These are urban, these are large cities. They might not be huge. We're not talking, New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, but they are large cities. They're not small little towns, right? And they are spread out geographically. If you look at where they are in terms of the United States map, you see that he's trying to say, he's not trying to write an academic journal article here. He's not trying to produce a research report. He's talking to people that don't have to read this article, that might not even be really interested in this. So he's not going to bog them down with the exhaustive collection of data. He's going to give them enough to make them believe that he knows what he's talking about. And he's going to spread it out so that, someone can't say, well, you're just talking about Ohio, or you're just talking about Wisconsin, or you're just talking about, Texas. No, he gives you a spread, and so you tend to believe him that the numbers across the nation for these boxes are going down. Okay, now, frankly, if that's what you did with your research paper and you did it right, and you met all the requirements, I'd give you a decent grade for that, a good grade for that. That's an observation that maybe you're kind of the first ones to make it. But he does something more with this, doesn't he? He uses that thing he observed, he noticed, and then he tries to do something more with it. Now, I don't know exactly what version of doing more it might take for you, but what he does here, right? I'll come back to that statement in a second. But what he does here is he takes that blue mailbox and he turns it into a symbol, doesn't he? The second part of the essay is all about us understanding that big blue mailbox as a symbol of what it, and as a symbol, it stands for something. He's asking us to think about what it stands for. And once we understand what it stands for, the support of the American government to the benefits we have, to live as a community that needs roads paved, that needs to be able to communicate with each other, and the way that the United States government will not completely control these mechanisms of communal life, but will subsidize it, will help fund it, will also give it a lot of control over itself. These American subsidized companies, right, that help us have the benefits we have. And so there is a sense where you need to stop and think, hey, look, literally, I know the prices have gone up for a stamp. I think now it's 75 cents, but for less than $1, you can send 7 ounces, right? 7 ounces of paper from, I don't know, take, let's go Miami, Florida, all the way up to Seattle, Washington, cross the country diagonally, and it'll get there in 4 or 5 days, and many times it actually does arrive. I guess sometimes it doesn't. I've lost some mail too, but well, the point is, this is a very interesting thing, and he wants us to look at that and say, and to be thankful for that. That's what this essay is about. It's about watching America evolve in terms of the services that we enjoy, that we create, that we co-create with our government, and watching them evolve. And as we move from one stage to another, not to be afraid of that progress and the change it may take, right? The different change of forms it might take. But to be thankful for what came before, be thankful for the mailbox, for what it did, for what it stands for. And now that as we move forward and the mail takes on a different shape, or maybe it shuts down, or maybe it gets privatized more, it's not federally run totally, but there could be changes happening now. We're certainly using digital communication a lot more. So what does that mean for the physical mail? Change is going to happen. Let's not be afraid of that. Let's move forward, and let's just realize that we did it before, we can do it again. In terms of creating a really good system of mutual aid and help between the citizen and the government, in terms of companies and services that we can develop together. And really, that's what you see, how that message got a lot bigger, and that blue mailbox turned into a symbol. That's what he did with it, to make a piece that was worth reading. That gave the intentional reader, what I mean by that is the reader that was paying attention, the reader that was willing to give him the time, a reward, the reward of complexity, that the reward of a deeper insight. You see what I'm saying? And that's how an observational paper works. Its big goal is to stand together as one piece that says, come in. I want you to read me. I'm going to create interest. I'm going to maintain it. Come on, keep on going. And you're leading the reader through. Keep on going. And then you're going to reward it in the sense that when that reader stops, they are able to think about that. They're able to ruminate about it. They're able to remember it the day later or 2 days later, because there was something you gave them mentally that their mind liked. And the expression of that is that the mind didn't forget it. The mind didn't balk at it. The mind didn't reject it. The mind is working with it. Sometimes the mind immediately connects with something. Sometimes it takes a while, but it does connect. And that connection is rewarding for us. We were made to be intellectually active and commingling in the world around us. And this is the very reason you like to own things. This is the reason you like to arrange things, to have fashion, to have a room of your own. You are mentally intermingling with these things, and they are becoming part of yourself, which is one reason you really care about maybe how that looks or that doesn't look, or no, you don't want that type of car, you want this type of car, you don't want that type of furniture. If we can afford these things, we tend to really spread our mind over them. And when you read material that allows you to do that, you sense that as well. Okay, so the observational essay works that way. And notice that Bob Greene in this essay is not trying to persuade you about anything. This is not necessarily a controversial topic. If it is, he's not letting the controversial nature of it be the center of the piece, right? He is not necessarily trying to say, oh, you got to do something now. Let's save the mailbox. He's not saying that we should save the United States Postal Service. In fact, one of the metaphors he uses in the second part of the paper has us driving a car, looking in the rear view mirror, and in the rear view mirror we can see the mailbox. Okay, well, what does that suggest to you about his attitude towards this? That he is willing to leave it behind. He's moving forward to something else. So this is not a persuasive paper in the sense that he's trying to get you to take action one way or the other over some issue that needs to be resolved. This is just a piece of writing that has a linear flow. It's a beginning, middle, end. You can sense the way it links together. It feeds you information, keeps you moving through it, and gives you a reward, and a mental reward at the end. Here in this case, surprised you a little bit with taking that blue mailbox and turning it into a symbol, right? And tapping into maybe some patriotic feeling. So that's exactly what an observational paper does. Is it doesn't, you can't pin it down and say, okay, it's going to it's going to call for action, or it's going to call for change, or it's going to do this, or it's going to do that, or some observational papers, well, they can do all sorts of things, right? But the thing that they're doing in the main, right, is creating interest, maintaining it, rewarding it, and for this sort of genre, for this sort of pieces that the class English 1020 is dealing with, the nonfiction research, you got to have some information in there that you went out and got. You either made it or found it, and you try to find the best sources and the best info, and so you're using that, writing a piece that is it's not a short story, it's not a novella, it's not a poem, it's a nonfiction piece about the world, about people, about something that's real. And excuse me, you're basically crafting this so that once someone starts reading it, it's hard for them to stop, And when they get at the end, they feel like they learned something, or they feel like they've been acknowledged as an intellectual person. And they definitely will not feel bored. I feel like one of the best ways to recognize the reward I'm trying to talk about is to understand it in terms of its absence. When the reward is not there, the writing is boring. The movie is boring. The song is boring. The conversation is boring. The museum is boring. All right? When the reward is there, the boringness disappears. Curiosity is revived. And so that's another way to understand this. What I mean when I say a reward, I'm talking about the effect of the reading experience here, or the interaction of the text, whether it's a movie, a video, a song, whatever. In this case, for this class, it will be the writing and the essays that you read. But the interaction of that, for most people that actually give it a chance, okay? I mean, you might never give it a chance. And then, if you're not going to give it a chance by actually sitting down and trying to read it, I mean, really trying to read it and paying your dues by giving it 30 minutes of your time and your concentration, then don't criticize it on the other end by like, oh, well, that didn't keep, I didn't understand it, or, well, no. First, before you earn the right to say those sorts of things, I mean, you have to earn the right to say those sorts of things. And you do that by actually engaging with it. How would you like it if somebody met you for 5 minutes and then for the rest of their life carried that impression with them because they didn't want to give you the right amount of time to really get to know you? They might not ever know the depth that you have, the color that you have in your life, the very good things that make you who you are, because they just didn't want to give you the time. So they didn't really pay attention. They didn't really honestly meet you, and it was half-hearted. They didn't really engage. You thought you were having a 5 or 10 minute conversation. They weren't even listening. And now they're going to remember you, but they're going to remember you based on all their little half-formed notions as far as the clouded memory will allow. And what if they just somehow had some sort of negative reaction and they just wrote you off that way? Hey, you might feel like I sometimes feel, hey, you need to give me a chance. You didn't get to know me. You didn't get to talk to me about issues. You didn't get to see the basis of my thought. What gives you the right to form these impressions and to carry them with you for the rest of your life? So, once that lesson finally hit me, I had to not worry about it too much, because that's just how the world works, right? I mean, no, that's just how it works. But one thing that I want to try to do is not to do that to other people. If I don't really get to meet someone, then I don't really have the right to form some opinion about them that I'm going to carry with me for the rest, long term, right? I would rather say, I honestly don't know that person. I don't know. And even though I might sense something in here, I know that I just don't know enough yet to really. So at the very least, stop making judgments on other people. And I feel like that's at least, it's like the Hippocratic Oath if you're a doctor, right? It's not necessarily do the best good you can, just don't do harm, and so let's think about that when we try to do these readings. If you want to see if you can grow or not, if you want to see if you really are a literary person hiding in there, if you want to rediscover how much you really do love words, and if you want to begin to live the life of the mind and the body, the full human experience, which means you have to be smarter. You have to get more things up here, because that's what you've got. Not only the body, not only all the wonderful things that goes with it, but this incredible mind. And you've got to be understanding it and helping it grow. And you do that by getting involved with great movies, great music, great books. If you're not a reader, start with something easy. But you got to get started. And you got to be interacting with people that use words better than you so that you can start growing, right? And I want you to watch Bob Greene do it. I want you to watch our next essay do it. Okay, how do they create interest, maintain it, reward it? All right, and how do they do it with facts? And now, not every essay that we read is going to be doing that, but a lot will. and I want you to pay attention to that. And that's your observational paper. If you want to experiment with it and try to write something like that for me this semester, that's great. I encourage it. If it's not for you, then hey, honestly, the information paper or the persuasive approach might be just the thing you need to grow the right way for this class. That's really what my concern is are you growing the right way this semester as a person who needs to be very good with words and with ideas? And you need to pick the right path and the right tool to help you grow the best way. But just any one of these three is open to you. Thank you for watching.